you speak. 100 billion creatures catch your breath, evolving in pursuit of what you said. If it all reveals your nature so alive, see your heart in everything you say. Every painted sky, a canvas of your grace. Creation still obeys you so alive.
The angel of God, who was going before the Israelite army, moved and went behind them. And the pillar of cloud moved from in front of them and took its place behind them. It came between the army of Egypt and the army of Israel. So the cloud was there with the darkness, and it lit up the night. One did not come near the other all night. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea. The Lord drove the sea back by a strong east wind all night and turned the sea into dry land, and the waters were divided. The Israelites went into the sea on dry ground, the waters forming a wall for them on their right hand and on their left. The Egyptians pursued and went into the sea after them. All of Pharaoh's horses, chariots, and chariot drivers. At the morning watch, the Lord, in the pillar of fire and cloud, looked down on the Egyptian army and threw the Egyptian army into a panic. He clogged their chariot wheels so that they turned with difficulty. The Egyptians said, "Let us flee from the Israelites, for the Lord is fighting for them against Egypt." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, so that the water may come back upon the Egyptians, upon their chariots and chariot drivers." So Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and at dawn the sea returned to its normal depth. As the Egyptians fled before it, the Lord tossed the Egyptians into the sea. As the waters returned and covered the chariots and the chariot drivers, the entire army of Pharaoh had followed them into the sea. Not one of them remained. But the Israelites walked on dry ground through the sea, the waters forming a wall for them on their right and on their left. Thus the Lord saved Israel that day from the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the seashore. Israel saw the great work that the Lord did against the Egyptians. So the people feared the Lord and believed in the Lord and in his servant Moses. The word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God. Thank you, Anton. I want you to see. You know this guy. You know of him. So Stephen Hawking once said this: "Science is increasingly answering questions that used to be the province of religion." Religion was an early attempt to answer the questions that we all ask in every age. Why are we here, and where do we come from? Long ago, the answer was almost always the same. The gods made everything. The world was a scary place, so even people as tough as the Vikings believed in supernatural beings to make sense of natural phenomena like lightning, storms, and eclipses. Nowadays, well, science provides better and more consistent answers for us. It's not unusual, right, to hear claims outside the church that science, and well, actually up in this area, not unusual to hear claims inside the church, that science has disproved religion. And it normally revolves around four main questions about that. And so those four questions about creation. That's the big one, right? The person who asked this question, you asked for it. Person who asked this question asked specifically about creation. What are we supposed to believe about that story? There's the question of creation. And the Big Bang, right, disproves Christian ideas about how things all got started. What do we do about that? Then there's the question of, I would say it's slightly related, but the question of God's providence because of that question. It kind of rolls out of that question of creation. That evolution must discredit Christian perceptions about how life developed and how humankind came to be. So how the earth was created, now how we came to be. Is it not God's will involved in this, or did evolution just make it so? And then there's kind of the question of the method of Christianity. That science demonstrates that Christian claims just in general, a lot of the things we claim to believe, in general, are kind of weak and unsubstantiated. And then there is the step past that of, and these people who say they have a God who created all of this and all of us, aren't they kind of like responsible for some of this crisis, this ecological crisis we find ourselves in right now in our world? A crisis that proves that maybe our God is like not all that powerful and kind of inadequate at fixing all of this. And also maybe Christians are culpable in all of that language of, having dominion over the earth. If we were to have dominion over the earth, if God's people are, why does it look like this? How can we call that good? We got these 4 various questions that come up over time. And they're real questions. Like, these are the ones that you all have asked, and this is what y'all have asked this many times, by the way, over the last 2 years, but this is how we're finally bringing it up. And they illustrate a lot of our angst related to this perceived notion that science and Christianity are at odds with one another. This notion that we have heard that reason and faith are at odds with one another. This assumption has come, it kind of birthed, it had new birth in the Enlightenment, but it's kind of always been there, right? It's kind of always been there. But today I'm going to say that perhaps that was a mistake. To assume whether because we also as Christians will also put the hard line on you can't just rely on reason, you have to trust. Whether science's perception of religion and whether religion's perception of science, that we have in the mix missed something really core to our story. While we have made it a battle between the two, the Bible has no room for that. Like, legitimately no room for it. From the very beginning in the Old Testament, the stories have always kind of been this mix, this dance between reason and faith. Take, for instance, you'll know this story, the reference to like the birth in Bethlehem, Jesus' story. This is a good example. You have the story displays science, because who are the ones who end up finding Jesus? Who are these wise men? They are astrologers, they're science guys. So it displays science. Meanwhile, you get this story from like John. They follow this star. There's a star in the sky. That star has been debated on whether it was a real star in the sky. These are learned men. And then in the Gospel of John, it says that the incarnation, the Word became flesh, became revelation. And then we get into this world of revelation. And anytime there's revelation, science people immediately shut their brains off. That something might be revealed that we can't make fact. Another great story, and my favorite story for this, is the story of the Red Sea, the parting of the Red Sea. So this is the thing that I wonder if you've ever noticed. In the parting of the Red Sea, there are 2 explanations in one verse for what happens. This kind of dance, again, between the reason and faith. One explanation number 1, the Israelites walked on dry ground through the sea. the waters forming a wall for them on their right and on their left. Is that the traditional one you've heard? It's a traditional one? All right, good. Here before us is the miracle version, right? This is the religion version. This is the faith version of this story. There's no way that water can form walls on either side of you for you to walk through without it being a miracle. And so science says, not possible. Explanation number 2, though, in the exact same set of verses, the Lord threw the Egyptian army into panic, and he clogged their chariot wheels so that they turned with difficulty, and that's what tossed the Egyptians into the sea. 2 different explanations for how Israel achieved victory. This one, though, people seem to do some religious liberties in the storytelling of it, right? But all highly possible. This reason and faith kind of intermixing in one story. We could spend a lot of time talking about the story of creation as well. But bottom line, before I get to what I think I want to do in the next 15 minutes is give you a telling of this story from a place that neither could debate. I wonder, and then from that you'll be able to answer those questions, okay? So the 2 main things, the 2 real questions at play normally in this conversation between reason and faith in science and in religion is one, is Christianity founded on events that maybe could not have happened? We don't like to talk about that question. That's a hard question to answer. So you know which ones these include, right? Are Christianity founded on events that maybe could not have happened? Like, scientifically speaking, we know the way that the creation story and the age of the creation story of the earth and of humans kind of does not at all match what science tells us about how the earth was created and people were created, right? So that's one of those stories that lingers. Another, the virgin birth. Science tells us how babies are made, right? We know how they're made. How does a baby not made that way happen, right? Is Christianity founded on events that could maybe not have happened? And then the other big question is the whole, if that's true, then is the whole mindset of faith a flawed form of thinking? To get at these, I would like to first show you another scientist's take on this. And I might have to go back. I might have done it out of order. Can you put the Einstein up there? Einstein had a different thing to say earlier in this. Well, science without religion is just lame. Religion without science is blind. If I were to take this into account and tell you the story today, here's how it would go, okay? Here is the story of the Bible in a place that recognizes the marrying of science and religion. We believe that there's something called essence, and that it's outside of us and beyond us and largely incomprehensible to existence where we are, whatever that other stuff is out there. And it's made up of, we as Christians believe it's made up of 3 persons. 3 persons in this complete, devoted, dynamic relation to one another. You can't disprove that. You don't know. I don't know. This is what we believe. And this essence, it dwells in this place of forever, whatever forever is, because to here, this all seems really temporary to us. That the essence exists in this beyond time and space. We believe also that this essence then chose to create things like time and space and matter and shape and life and energy and consciousness, which all together, like we call now existence, which we're a part of, right? And this essence created all of this, not as some experiment, not as some game to play. This essence didn't get bored, not as a challenge or just a breeze because it has the power to. It did so for one reason and one reason only, because it desired to be in relationship with something, someone outside of itself. So it creates the universe in one explosive start. And it waits for all that constitutes for life to happen. That takes some time. Since the essence is outside of time, and outside and beyond time, and is responsible for creating time, that old 14 billion years, it took, was as if one day. But once human beings, finally took shape, relationship began to take on this whole other dimension. The Trinity, which is what we ended up calling this essence, as we now call it, 3 persons in one, began to interact with human consciousness. And eventually, over time, settled upon one people, Israel, with whom this divine essence thought maybe I could create covenant relationship with. But the whole purpose of the story was so that the Trinity could become known and be in relationship with all of humanity, right? Creation in person. And so in the fullness of time, that did end up happening. Honoring that covenant, one person of the essence took on human form and existence as a member of the people of this one group of people, Israel, fulfilling the hopes of Israel and the whole design of the Trinity, and bringing, finally, humanity face to face with God, and God, also the desire of God all along, face to face with humanity. Yet this virus, more lethal than COVID, had been the downfall of humanity from the beginning, right? That fatal flaw that kind of poisoned existence and dismantled all the trust and distorted all the love. And it got into even that relationship on the ground in existence too. Humanity rejected this fully human, fully essence within existence. And they killed him in the worst way possible, the most unimaginable way. The same way they disposed of non-compliant slaves as some kind of fearsome example to others who might rebel. And at this crucial moment in the story, the Trinity could have backed out of the experiment, if this was an experiment, but it wasn't. They could have ended the game if it was a game, but it wasn't. It could have abandoned the relationship, but it didn't. And it's because inherent to the entire point was relationship, right? And so humanity was flawed, yeah. Its flaws had developed this allergic reaction to the purpose of its own existence. It had chosen some other story of this story. Despite all the despair, all the depression, all the denial. But the Trinity didn't leave the story there. It kept the relationship going. Not only just restoring the second person of the essence to existence again, but when the second person, Jesus, had restored all the relationships with the very ones, the very people who'd panicked and fled and abandoned, this third person, this spirit of essence, came to shape everyone in this radical relational way that Jesus had offered. And when this existence does finally come to an end, not just because we have scientists telling us the age of the earth and what we're doing to it, but when all things for us, for all things come to an end, Jesus will be there again at that kind of threshold of time and eternity, when our consciousness will be flooded by essence And with all the Trinity, we will finally be taken into the wonder of forever. That's a way to tell the Christian story of how God had been revealed to us. That's the story worth believing. And science and reason have been presumed to be in tension with, battle with one another over God's revelation to us. Revelation meaning how God communicates with us. How does God show up? And one of the main ways we can begin to relieve the tension between science and religion, reason and faith, is by really reflecting on and defining what we mean by revelation, and really take full stock of the ordinary and the extraordinary, right? The oblique and the direct, the general and the personal ways that the essence of God has reached out into our existence. To bring this gap, to bridge this gap, we have to talk about the ways in which God's person and purpose are disclosed to us over time. And all the ways that we have thought it's been disclosed to us have all contributed to this breakdown between science and religion. And so there's one of my favorite modern day theologians helps us with this. His name is Reverend Sam Wells, and he says that there are really 5 ways that God reveals God's self to us. First, awe. It's the kind of revelation, awe. It's the kind of revelation from God that is so fabulous that we just kind of stand and we can't, speechless. You want to grab someone's attention to talk about it. You want to take a picture of it. You just kind of just are stopped by it. It could be a waterfall, perhaps, or it could be all the little intricacies and beauties of that first moment of parenthood, or holding their little hand as they begin to start living, all those things that just kind of take your breath away. And this is the kind of revelation, it's all about wonder, right? Wonder. In all its immensity, in all of its minuteness, breadth, and detail. But most importantly, it's about something any human being can behold in this world. Any person can experience in this world. It's not about me. It's about the world and the universe and all of its enormity, right? The second kind of revelation is intimacy. This kind of revelation, it's like, it could be called astonishing coincidence, but it's usually too absurd to be just an accident for us, you know? It's that quiet voice in your ear that tells you to go a different way, and something happened the other way, or the terrible risk you took that actually turned out really well, or those words of wisdom that somehow came back to you and ended up propelling you into a career you never thought imaginable. This kind of revelation are the secrets that only you think you know, and yet these experiences, they feel like something bigger than you even also knows them too. Must be taking them up in some kind of bigger story, bigger than you, bigger than this, so that you're not alone in this world. Anyone could experience such things, right? And they do all the time. They experience precisely these things in this way, but they're the ones this way in their life, and no one else has experienced that way, and they stand apart from all the other events of our life. It's the personal kind of stand in awe, relief, gratitude that comes out of this, some knowledge of something beyond me at work. Notice these first 2 kinds are literally the area where most people who say they're spiritual but not religious play in, right? Stand in awe of the beautiful things, and I sense something beyond myself. These first 2 don't really require Christian faith or Jesus or anything like that. And so the next 2 become really important, right? The third kind of revelation he would call word, which is very simple, Bible, right? This is how we anticipate God speaking. This is how we hear the voice of God a little bit. It's not just opening up the Bible to any page at all or any verse at all. In order to read the Bible, you can't just read it beginning to end either, because it doesn't flow like that. You know that, right? God speaks to us through the story held within these pages. And so we encounter Jesus. Essence is revealed to us through those words. Revelation, awe, intimacy, and now we get word. And then the fourth type of revelation is action. Basically, when Christians do certain things, when we have a meal, when we imitate Jesus, when we serve together, when we give together, when we pray together. God is revealed in that. This, as marvelous, though, as word and action are, without awe and intimacy, these can just become some private, mechanical, unrevealing, unaffecting us. And so that's why we have to have the fifth one. Fifth one is surprise. The kind of revelation by God disarms both the faith community and the science community, honestly. You want to get under a science person's skin, have something surprising, unexplainable happen. When a person lays down their life for another, or speaks truth in the face of intimidation, or forgives despite huge loss in their life, or anything in that realm, Holy Spirit is revealing to the world the wonder of God and generosity of heart, right? And sure, each five of these, all five of them have their detractors, right? All the things you can say about them. We could dismiss the awe of creation, the awe of Creator, for just awe of the natural world, right? We could do that. Or we could stand in awe of how the Creator uses this awe-inspiring natural science to calibrate the quality of wonder and encounter with the divine. We could dismiss the intimate religious experience as merely psychologically generated. It's a social experiment on us. Are we going to get all sappy? Are we going to make a story about it? Or you could stand grateful that the one who orders the universe around us uses social science, the way we feel and think, and our need to feel not alone in our head and in our body and in this world, to draw close to us and to quantify the depths of presence and all the intricacies of discernment in this life and make us feel a little less alone. You could dismiss the Bible for all of its issues of reliability, because they've got a lot of them, right? Lots of them. All the ways it falls short of what we demand of a text today, right? You could dismiss it all. You could dismiss it as a harmless, it's harmless. It's worthy if you need something to feel good, but ultimately fruitless. It's a fruitless search for purpose in the world. Or you could admit, which scientists have to do, that natural and social sciences have no explanation at all, no account or rebuke for the authority of Scripture or the vitality of dynamic, faithful action and imitation of Jesus in community. No doctor knows what to do with the fact that people live longer when they're a part of a church. And you could dismiss holy surprise, you could, as just overinterpreted coincidence in the world. Luck, chance, accident, that's all it is. Or you could acknowledge the way that the God-sized surprises of the universe, and within and among people and communities living in extraordinary ways, many of whom are not Christian, has this remarkable influence to humble us in all of our endeavors of science and faith, right? I told you the story of the parting of the Red Sea, but I'm going to return to the Magi as we prepare for communion and to exit today. The story of the Magi, just think about it for a second. It's this definitive revelation story. It's got all five aspects in it. All five ways that God reveals God's self to us. Think about it. It starts in the east with firsthand awe and wonder at the star, standing in awe. It's the kind of thing they would have taken pictures of and elbowed their neighbor. Just look at that. And then it goes to Jerusalem, right? Wise men hear from these priests and from these scribes this story about a babe being born, not in Jerusalem, but in Bethlehem. And then in Bethlehem, surrounded by a community of people working out their faith in real time at the foot of a manger, they encounter Jesus They encounter Jesus through service and giving gold and frankincense and myrrh, acting out their faith in the moment. But before returning home, they have a dream. It's this uncanny, it's real, something they can't explain away. They all had it. And it forces them to go home another way after this intimate encounter with something bigger than themselves, these scientists. And it's with us today that this 5-point story of God's revelation finally is revealed. Point 5, because as we stand surprised now, we are surprised every time we read this story, in which the truth of the incarnation was more apparent to distant stargazers than it was among God's people. If science is wrong to speak of fact without recognizing the significance of trust, Christianity is wrong to speak of trust if that means neglecting and overriding fact. And our prophet today is Einstein, then.